Hi, welcome to the Aire Serv system overview. Today we're going to be covering several components that cover our franchise model. What I'd like for you to do is take notes if you have any questions and get with your franchise director once this is over. Keep in mind this is not a replacement for coming to Waco if your franchise director does invite you. Let's go ahead and get started. First we're going to talk about Aire Serv marketing. And the first marketing tool that we have is a tool called E1. The E1 tool allows our franchise network to go in and really dive into their marketing and consumer behavior. When I talk to independent contractors, the thing I hear the most is we really don't know what we're doing in marketing and advertising, and I call that shotgun marketing. The Aire Serv more rifled approach takes this E1 tool and it compares not only US Census data, consumer buying behavior, but it also tracks and manages things that we've done in the past. E1 took our target customer and divided up into 6 very specific segments, as you can see here. And I'm just going to use sophisticated elites as an example. In this particular franchise location, sophisticated elites made up almost 20% of their marketplace. Now this is pretty interesting because if you don't know that your marketplace is divided up into very specific segments, you may be missing a very large portion of your potential customer base. The next portion of this tool is actually consumer buying behavior. So now we know how many of these people live in your market. We also know where they go to get their information. For instance, sophisticated elites, as you can see, spend a lot of their time getting their information off the internet. Whereas the silver traditionalists spend most of their time gathering their information from newspapers, mailers, and handouts. This can be very impactful on an independent contractor because if you don't know that half of your marketplace is made up of sophisticated elites, and you're not spending time and energy on the internet, you could be losing a very large portion of your potential customer base. The last part of this tool is maps. Not only do we know how many of these people live in your market, but we actually know exactly where they live. We can take that and drop that over into what we call a heat map. And as you can see here, the darker orange spots are the things that are going to represent the highest density of those people. So this is very unique in the fact that if you know that a large portion of silver traditionalists live in a very specific segment in your market, we now know, because they still read mailers, that we can send a mailer out into that area. And with these tools, we get a much higher return on investment. Now, when you talk about branding your business, one of the questions I want to ask you is, are you branding your business around a person or a set of people? Or are you branding your business around a national brand? The follow-up question to that is, which one of those do you think is worth more if you go to sell your business? As you can see in all of our marketing collateral, when you talk about branding a business, everything needs to look and feel the same. That's why if you go to any Aire Serv location, all of the marketing collateral and pieces are going to look and feel the same. I challenge you, go to McDonald's in your area and try to find purple arches. You're not going to find it, right? It's the golden arches. That's called branding and consistency. Now the next step on the wheel is the Ronald McDonald House Charities. Aire Serv corporately sponsors the Ronald McDonald House Charities, and we have a lot of franchisees that participate in their local markets. One of the unique things, since we're a national sponsor of the Ronald McDonald House, is any Aire Serv franchise location can actually use that little Ronald McDonald House logo on their marketing advertising pieces. And not only do we think it's the right thing to do, but studies also show that consumers will choose to do business with one company over another simply because they know that they give back to the local community. Let's talk about social media. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Twitter because that's typically geared towards the younger generation. What I do want to talk a little bit about is Facebook. Now, an interesting fact, our target demographic, Deborah, a woman 35 to 65 years old, also happens to be the fastest growing demographic on Facebook. Now, I think there are many reasons for that. Probably they're going and checking on what little Timmy's doing. But the unique thing about Facebook is it's 100% completely free to use. All Aire Serv franchise locations get a custom, 100% local Aire Serv Facebook page. Now, not only is it a great way to stay in front of existing customers, it's a great way to recruit new customers, but our franchise locations have been using it as a tool to recruit technicians, office staff, and professional salespeople to their organization. Now let's talk about the internet. So one question I have for you is, do you have a website? And if you do, that's great. My next question is, how relevant or how much do you pop up when somebody searches heating and air conditioning in your local market? One of the things that we do for our franchise locations is we build a custom 100% local website. Now once again, it's going to have the look and feel of the Aire Serv brand, but all the content is going to be 100% local. When I talk to contractors, this is typically one of the things that they have the most trouble with, because they get a lot of companies coming and saying, I can get you on the first page of Google, I can promise you top placing in Bing. And if you get in those phone calls, run. One of the things that we do is we actually track and manage our websites on behalf of our franchisees. So it's one of those hats that you don't have to wear as a business owner anymore. The last cog in this wheel is what we call inspecting what you expect. And we do that with a tool called Operation Synergy. What Operation Synergy does is it's an automated human voice, and it goes out to each customer at every location the day after the invoice is done. It asks the customer 4 questions. How did you feel about the service of the person who answered the phone? How did you feel about the service of the technician that was in your home? Was the value you received worth the money that you paid? And the last question is, would you recommend us to a friend or family? Now, what this tool does is it actually interacts with our CRM system that you'll see here shortly. So as a business owner, you now don't have to go on 15, 20, 30 ride-alongs in a month. You're now getting real-time data and feedback on what your customers think about your frontline staff. And this can be very, very impactful, because now, all of a sudden, if you get a very low rating, an email will pop up on your phone or your computer, and you have an opportunity to call that customer back and make it right before they go out and tell everyone. And on the other hand, if you get rave reviews, you can actually obviously call that customer back, thank them for their business, and you can also see if there's anything that we can do for any of their friends or family. Now that's going to do it for the marketing section of this presentation. Now once again, keep in mind, we could probably spend several hours talking about marketing and advertising. The next wheel in this presentation is management. Now I talk to independent contractors on a daily basis, and one of the things that I always hear is it's hard to find the right people. One of the things that we do at Aire Serv, besides coaching and training and the manuals, is we've really figured out the way to recruit, hire, retain, and compensate the right people. So the next cog on this wheel is training. And as an independent contractor, you have access to hundreds, if not thousands, of different trainings across the country. But one of the things that I hear the most is it's tough to implement that training once you get back home. One of the things that we do at Aire Serv is not only do we have our training in Waco, we also do regional training, and we do ongoing training. So once your technicians, for instance, have been trained, we have ongoing webinars to keep in front of them to make sure that we reinforce everything that they've learned. Once again, that's another hat that you're able to take off as an owner. Some examples of some of the training that we do are what we call home comfort designer training, office staff training, management training, technician training, product training, and the list goes on. But as you can see, it's very valuable not only that your team is going to get trained, but they're also going to get that ongoing education. Now I always ask independent contractors, where are you going? What I mean by that is, are you a $1 million company that wants to get to $10 million? Are you a $250,000 company that wants to get to $2 million? And the reason why I ask that is, do you know how you're going to get there? And the example I like to use is, if you start off in San Francisco and you try to get to New York, do you think you're going to get there shorter or faster if you've got a GPS and a roadmap? Well, it's the same thing in business. If I'm a $1 million company starting off in San Francisco, trying to get to my $10 million company in New York, do you think I'm going to get there shorter or faster if I've got a set way of doing business or a GPS and roadmap? Now obviously that's a rhetorical question, but you get the idea that I'm trying to paint. Next, let's talk about operations. Zware is our proprietary CRM system. What this means is it handles all dispatching, all of our invoicing, all of our tracking of revenue, all of our human resource management. It's a very intuitive product and very easy to learn for your frontline staff. ServiceTitan is our other CRM system, and as you can see by some of the examples shown here, it's also very intuitive. You can add videos to invoicing, and once again, it tracks and manages your entire team. As you can see with both screens, both Zware and ServiceTitan offer a mobile dispatching system. This is a game changer for most businesses. Imagine your office is completely paperless. That's going to cut down not only on saving paper, but it's also going to cut down on clutter. Another main advantage of having a mobile dispatching system is you no longer have to manually enter in data from an invoice into a computer system. As soon as the job is completed, the technician simply presses the submit button and all of that information is transferred back to the office. This can save anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes on manually entering in just one invoice. The next component is ProTradeNet. ProTradeNet is a vendor relations department that we set up on behalf of the Dwyer Group franchisees. This can have a very significant impact on a business. As you can see on the screen, we have well over 100 vendors. Now, I just want to pause and do a real-world scenario with you. If you're a $1 million company, let's say for example, I would be willing to bet you spend anywhere from $330,000 to $350,000 on equipment and material. Well, not only do our vendors give our franchisees best pricing, but they also give rebates. So let's just take Lennox for example. Lennox gives our franchise network a 3.5% rebate on any equipment and material that they buy. So if you take the 3.5% that Lennox gives our franchise network, and you multiply that by that $350,000 that you already spent on equipment and materials, you can see that's well over $10,000 that you're getting just for being an Aire Serv franchisee. Now keep in mind, this is just one example, and you can see GM, Ford, Ferguson, Barnett. All of these vendors not only give best pricing, but also rebates. You can see how this could have a significant impact on your business just by doing what you're already doing. The next section is pricing for profit. It's very rare in our industry that any of our vendors call and say, hey, you've been doing a great job, I'm going to lower your prices by 5%. No, on the contrary, typically the prices are going up and up. Let's take something as small as R22. Your vendor calls and says, all right, Chris, sorry, but we were raising the price of R22 by $50 a drum. Do you have an easy system to go in and manipulate and update that pricing? If you don't update your prices with the rising costs that you're incurring, you're losing potential profit on every single job that you go out on until you have an opportunity to update those prices. As you can see on the screen, we have a very easy system for our franchise network to go in and update pricing. It literally takes about 30 seconds. You log into the system, you find your material that you're looking to update, you change the price, press a button, the button submits it over. After you press the button, the technicians in the field are going to go ahead and update their pricing guides, and with a matter of a minute or two, your entire pricing system is updated to ensure that you're getting the profit that you deserve and need on every single job. And the last section in operations are answering the phone. At Aire Serv, we've got two different call centers that are not only trained in our phone answering sequence, how to overcome objections, but the unique thing is they're both also trained in our CRM system. So for instance, if you said I want to go on a 2-week vacation and I want one of Aire Serv's vendors to answer my phones, they would actually be able to go in and answer your phones and dispatch your technicians via iPad just as if it was you in the office doing it yourself. The next wheel we're going to talk about is financial management. With every location, every single year, we do a 100% customized budget and forecast. What this allows you to do is it gives you a roadmap for what your business should be doing next year. Now you're going to be doing a financial review with your franchise consultant on a monthly basis. So let's take a real-world example. Because all of our locations are on the same chart of accounts, we know as a percent of income what your business should be doing. So let's take that same $1 million company, and if you were to give me a profit and loss statement and say something as small as the field vehicle fuel was, let's say 7%. So on your $1 million company, you spent $70,000 last year on field vehicle fuel. Now that would raise a red flag to me because I know that your company should be around 3%. Now you may say 4% isn't a very big difference, but on a $1 million company, we're talking about $40,000. So as a consultant, I would walk through various ways on how we can see where that discrepancy is. We would not only look at credit card statements, but probably the big problem would be dispatching. And the last cog in this wheel is sales tracking. So if you take a look at what we call our big board, it's essentially a scoreboard for your frontline team. Now let's use a real-world example. So let's say on this big board or scoreboard, all of our technicians had an average ticket of $300. But poor Billy at the bottom, his average ticket was only $200. Well, if you don't have a way to track and manage this, you may go, let's say, an entire year not knowing that one of your technicians was not meeting your financial goals. Now, you may say $100 isn't that much, but let's say our technicians on average run, we'll say 4 calls a day, 5 days a week, and 2 weeks vacation, so we'll say 50 weeks in a year. That's 1,000 service calls that technician went on in a year. Now you multiply 1,000 calls by $100 less, that's 100,000 gross dollars that your business lost because you didn't have an easy way to track and manage what your frontline team is doing. So the last wheel in this presentation is sales. Let's talk about what we call advantage plans, or what most contractors call preventative maintenance agreements. Being in business over 20 years, we know that preventative maintenance agreements are the backbone to a thriving heating and air conditioning company. Not only is it great for cash flow, customer retention, but it makes your business worth more money when you go to sell it. Next, let's go to what we call the home comfort design process, or what most contractors call replacing existing systems. Because we've been in business well over 20 years, we found that in the residential market, the most profitable thing you can do as a heating and air conditioning company is replace customer systems. As you can see on the screen, we've got a proprietary process that home comfort designers take your customers through on a daily basis. We also have a proprietary pricing tool. Now this is really important because no matter who in your shop sells that job, you can be ensured that you get your desired not only gross dollars but net dollars out of each individual sale. The next cog on the wheel is technician training. We've got a very specific 10-step process that we actually coach and train your frontline team on how to walk a customer through an average service call. Now, this training, keep in mind, has zero to do with anything technical. This is 2 to 3 full days of training your frontline staff on how to interact with a customer and properly diagnose a system. The next cog is what we call our ACE tool. That's our Aire Serv commercial estimator. This, once again, can be done on a computer. This is very unique in the fact that not only can we get down all the customer's information, locate all equipment, but we can specify any maintenance criteria, and we can also create proactive agreements on site that we can either print or email to the general manager. Now this last wheel is obviously the customer. Now it's a paradigm shift for most contractors in the fact that, yes, you happen to do heating and air conditioning, but that's not the business that we're in. We're in the customer service business. There's only so many customers you can go through in your market giving bad service until you don't have any customers to do business with. So you can see it doesn't matter if it's marketing, management, financials, operations, everything that we focus on at Aire Serv is teaching and coaching to make sure that the end user customer has the best experience possible. We call it creating a cheerleader customer. This concludes our presentation for today. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to watch this. Once again, any questions that you had throughout the process, please reach out to your franchise director as they'll be able to answer anything that you might have.